What if I told you that people test you not out of accident, but out of calculation? Every move is deliberate. They cross your boundaries because they've already smelled the hesitation that leaks from your body language, from the way your eyes shift, from the way your words tremble just slightly when you try to defend yourself. They push not to play, but to measure the limits of your resistance. They study you the way predators study prey circling, nudging, watching for the moment you give ground. They observe your pauses, your tone, the rhythm of your breathing, the smallest cracks in your armor, and the moment you flinch, the moment you swallow your own words, the moment you let something slide that should have been met with fire. You hand them the master key to your kingdom. From that instant, you are no longer sovereign over yourself. You are real estate to be divided, leased property that others believe they can rent piece by piece. And the world is full of eager tenants who will move into your silence, occupy your weakness, and claim ownership of your time, your energy, even your identity. And hear this with clarity. Kindness without strength is not kindness at all. It is a slow, methodical suicide. It is the ritual of offering pieces of yourself to those who never earned them, until nothing remains. Respect is never a birthright. It is never gifted freely out of goodwill. It is forged in fire, hammered in the cold, sharpened in blood and sweat until it is undeniable. Niccolo Machiavelli understood this law centuries ago. Crowns are not secured by prayers or hope, nor by the affection of others. They are secured by vigilance, by suspicion sharp enough to cut through deceit before it blossoms, by discipline so precise it leaves no room for betrayal to breathe. You do not secure power by shouting. Shouting exposes desperation. You do not secure power by explaining. Explanation signals the need to be understood, and need is weakness. You do not secure power by drowning people in words, because words without consequence are air. You secure power by presence, by silence that chills the air, silence so heavy it makes others second-guess their courage, by stillness so complete it feels dangerous, as though violence hides just beneath the surface, presence so undeniable that people lower their voices without you asking, that even arrogance shrinks in your company. That is the gravity of command. When someone disrespects you, it is never just insult, it is investigation. They are testing the waters, measuring the distance between your threats and your actions. They are searching for that fatal gap between the mask you wear and the steel you carry underneath. If they discover that your bark is louder than your bite, then you are already theirs, conquered without resistance, shackled without chains. And once a man learns you are soft where you pretend to be hard, he will never unlearn it. That is why you must become elemental, not merely human, but something that bends the atmosphere around you. You must turn yourself into ice that burns when touched, into silence that suffocates the careless, into a presence so sharp it bends the spine of anyone who thinks of crossing you, cold enough that when a line is violated, there is no second warning, no soft correction, only the certainty that they've committed their final mistake. And when that moment comes, the world must understand, to trespass against you is to walk into a storm that has no mercy. This is not rage. This is not revenge. This is strategy. Rage is noisy. It leaks energy. It leaves you exposed. Revenge is reaction. It gives the other man the dignity of dictating your movements. Strategy is different. Strategy is cold, deliberate, exact. A man who cannot draw cold boundaries is already conquered before the first battle begins. He may think he is free, but his soul is already held on a leash by anyone bold enough to test him. A man who seeks to be endlessly understood will forever be misunderstood because he places his dignity in the fragile hands of others. The law must be as steady as stone, as permanent as a carved monument. You are not emotional. You are absolute. The line is not suggestion, it is law. And the law does not tremble, does not waver, does not bend for pity or for convenience. Engrave this into your mind. Hesitation invites change, but discipline creates sovereignty. Etch it deeper than memory, brand it into your spirit. Repeat it until it hardens your blood. I am untouchable. I am the line. The truth is this: people don't merely offend you, they probe you. Every insult, every betrayal, every subtle test is not random. It's an experiment in disguise. They want to know if your word bends, if your spirit cracks, if your silence is real steel or weakness dressed up as composure. They are not playing with you. They are running trials, collecting data, measuring whether you are master of yourself or an actor in borrowed armor. Machiavelli's law is brutal but simple. Never let the line appear negotiable, because once the line looks flexible, it is already broken. That is why your response must not be fire, but frost. Fire rages, burns hot, then burns out. Anger exposes weakness because it reveals that someone else has reached into your chest and stirred your emotions. Coldness terrifies because it carries no pulse. Numbers signal no hint of what lives behind the stillness. Coldness suggests depth, danger, calculation forces unseen. When you respond with control, they witness something rare power chained to discipline. Most men cannot do it. Most men bark, plead, explain, shout. But control the calm refusal to be moved becomes unforgettable. Here's your weapon. I don't argue. I adjust access. Speak it in the stillest voice you can, with the quiet weight of a verdict that needs no defense. That sentence, delivered without heat, without debate, will freeze the air sharper than any insult. You do not raise your voice, you withdraw what is scarce, your time, your presence, your attention, and that absence becomes punishment, sharper than rage, heavier than words, more permanent than fire. It is absence that haunts. Machiavelli said the ruler must be both lion and fox. The lion enforces through fear. The fox withdraws with cunning. The lion makes men tremble in his presence. The fox makes men despair in his absence. To command respect, you must be both terrifying when crossed, untouchable when withdrawn. That balance, that duality is what makes your law absolute. Understand this. Silence is not weakness, it is a blade. It is sharper than speech, more precise than fury. Silence is not retreat, it is ambush, the coiled strike waiting in the dark. The moment you explain, you've already confessed that the other had the right to question you. The moment you argue, you've stepped onto their stage. Let them write the script and agreed to play by their rules. That is surrender disguised as participation. The wise know that silence is not empty. Silence is pressure. Silence is winter itself, cold, heavy, suffocating. People cannot bear it long. They panic in it. They scratch at it. They fill it with nervous laughter, with too many words, with excuses they weren't asked to give. In silence they unravel. They reveal themselves, scramble to justify, leak their weakness, and expose their cracks while you stand unmoved. Executioner's hand not yet raised. This is why silence terrifies. It unsettles the heart more than any scream could. A scream burns and fades, but silence lingers like a shadow that never leaves. Silence forces them to face their own reflection without you lifting a hand. Practice this. When disrespected, resist the reflex to react. Do not explain, do not defend, do not rush to fill the void. Let silence fall like frost. 3 seconds, 5 seconds, 10. Hold their eyes. Say nothing. Do not twitch. Let the air grow heavier. Let them feel the punishment of their own words echoing against your stillness. They will begin to sweat under the weight of it, because silence magnifies guilt more than accusation ever could. And in that silence they will recognize the weight of your law. When you finally speak, your words must be scarce, deliberate, final words like steel doors slamming shut, words that do not invite reply. Machiavelli taught that fear and respect flow not from noise, but from controlled silence. Fear is born from unpredictability, the unknown that keeps men cautious. Respect is born from discipline, the steadiness that makes men cautious again. Silence delivers both in a single stroke. Practical power is simple. When insulted, speak nothing. If you must speak, do not exceed 7 words. Not acceptable. That ends here. You've lost access. Short, sharp, surgical. Then withdraw. Leave them drowning in the emptiness left behind. That emptiness becomes a mirror, and mirrors are crueler than punishments. That is punishment sharper than rage, heavier than fire, longer lasting than argument. Let me burn this into you. My silence is power. My stillness is judgment. But silence alone is not enough. Power must be worn like an aura, like armor, carried in your very posture, your gaze, the cadence of your breathing. If your boundaries only appear when crossed, you are already late, you are already exposed. A true man of power does not announce his limits. He embodies them. He carries them into the room before he speaks a word. People feel them in the air, the same way soldiers once felt the walls of ancient fortresses looming above them. Those fortresses did not need to be attacked daily to prove their strength. Their very presence warned what would happen if anyone dared. That must be you. Cold, consistent, immovable. You do not chase respect. You radiate consequences. You do not beg for peace. You embody law. How do you forge this aura? Not by chance, not by vague intention, but with precision, with consistency, with ruthless enforcement that does not blink. You decide once, only once, what you will allow, and you never bend from that decision again. One standard, carved into stone, enforced every time with everyone, without exception. There are no favorites, no loopholes, no moments of weakness where pity overrides law. And when the line is crossed, you act, not with rage, because rage betrays that they've unsettled your center, not with pleading, because pleading is a crown laid down at their feet. You act with consequence measured, cold, undeniable. The moment you explain yourself endlessly, you confess uncertainty. The moment you beg to be understood, you surrender your crown and kneel before their judgment. Machiavelli wrote, "Men judge more by what they see than by what they feel. Appearances shape reality. What they see in you becomes their truth, whether or not it matches your intentions. If you must declare your power, you don't have it. If they sense it without your words, if it is felt in your posture, in your silences, in the inevitability of your actions, then it has already become law. And when law is broken, punishment must follow not for your emotions, but for their memory. Understand this. People do not remember speeches. They do not remember lectures. They remember the day they touched fire and burned. They remember the scar that stayed after the wound. That burn outlives any explanation. That is why punishment must be cold, because cold cuts deeper than heat. There are 3 laws to punishment: speed, precision, and finality. Swift, so they know you didn't gather courage, it was instinct. Automatic, beyond negotiation. Precise, so it strikes exactly where it hurts most their access to you, their closeness, their privileges, the things they thought they had secured. And final, so there is no lingering debate, no dangling thread for them to tug at later. One strike, then silence. A sentence without appeal. Engrave this into yourself until it becomes instinct. I punish once. I punish cold. I punish in a way that is remembered long after I've forgotten it. But punishment alone is not the ultimate weapon. The ultimate weapon is scarcity. Exposure dilutes power. Too much presence kills respect. Too much availability kills value. Machiavelli warned rulers to never become too common, because familiarity breeds contempt. King who mingles endlessly becomes part of the crowd, and the crowd never bows to itself. A ruler who is everywhere loses the mystery that commands reverence. This is the art of absence. Absence is not retreat, it is strategy. Absence starves the greedy. Absence makes the arrogant shrink. To disappear is to show them, brutally, what life feels like without your presence. Scarcity creates hunger. Distance creates value. Absence makes your return feel like the rising of a rare sun. That is how power is not just held, but worshipped. Say this aloud: my absence is my power. Absence is not emptiness, it is gravity. It pulls at them, it starves them. It forces them to feel the cold space you leave behind. Fear, too, is part of this architecture, but not the wild, chaotic fear that sparks riots and rebellion. No, the fear you must build is the kind Machiavelli prized, engineered fear, a quiet fear that does not shout, but whispers in their mind long before they dare cross you, fear that works like an invisible guard, making people police themselves, forcing them to hesitate, to think twice before they act. Fear built not by tantrums, which betray a lack of control, but by consequence, silent, swift, unforgettable. People must know, not guess, that crossing you has a cost. Consistency, unpredictability, consequence, this trinity is law. You must always enforce your standard, but never in the same way. Sometimes you punish with silence, suffocating them in stillness. Sometimes you punish with withdrawal, stripping them of your presence, showing them the vacuum left in your absence. Sometimes you punish with direct consequence, sharp and cold, like a guillotine falling. They never know which hand you'll use, which path you'll take, only that it will come and it will cost them. That is control. That is sovereignty. Say it again. My fear commands respect, and then distance. Psychological distance is your shield and your crown. Do not be everywhere. Do not reveal everything. Do not waste words explaining what silence could say better. Kings built distance into their crowns. It was not gold alone that made people bow, it was the separation, the untouchable aura that placed them above. That distance makes their words heavier, their presence sharper, their silence unbearable. Rarity of access, mystery of disclosure, deliberate presence, these are weapons sharper than steel. Scarcity does what abundance cannot. It turns you into myth. Say it with certainty. My distance is my shield. And above all, reputation. Reputation is power you don't have to carry. It walks before you like a shadow. It enters the room before you do. It dictates how people approach you before you've spoken a word. If your reputation is cold, disciplined, unbending, you won't have to raise your voice or swing your sword. Your name will do it for you. But if your reputation is soft, emotional, inconsistent, you will be defeated before you act, because men will know they can break you without consequence. Machiavelli was blunt. Men judge more by appearances than reality. Decide what legend your name will carry. Decide what weight your shadow will have. Decide what they will whisper when you leave the room. Say it and engrave it. My name is my weapon. And finally, understand this. The ultimate law of power is to become irreplaceable. Not loved, not adored, not admired, needed. If they can replace you, they will. If they can live without you, they will. But if you become the stone their house rests upon, the pillar that holds their ceiling, then to remove you is to collapse themselves. That is sovereignty, not applause, not attention, necessity. And necessity is the crown that never slips. Say it aloud, write it, carve it into yourself. I am irreplaceable. For when you reach that level, your power is no longer debated. To move against you would be to cut their own throat. That is the final law. Cold, permanent, sovereign,